Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Another day, another bowl, and this is a big one. It's a piece of sycamore. It's 20 inches across and it's about 3.5 inches thick at this point. Somebody in the comments said they would like to see a bit more of where I do all this stuff. So this is the family farm. Nice windy day in England. That's my studio you've just zoomed past there, where I do all my voiceovers and editing and that kind of thing. And then back to the turning. So the lathe is trying to take off at the moment. We're a little bit out of balance. I say a little bit, I mean incredibly out of balance. It's actually ripped all the bolts out the floor, so I'm going to have to do something about that at some point. This piece, when I cut it, was actually quite flat when a year ago when I cut it out of the lump of tree that I had, and it's got a lovely warp in it now. So yes, it is pretty out of balance. I did manage to get it roughly in balance, but then as I started turning away the heavy bits on the outside of this side of the bowl, it got more and more out of balance again. So now we're doing some super safe turning around the back of the bowl, just to try and take a bit of weight off. Not ideal that, but needs must. Okay, so we're in balance now. Just shaping. We're running at 425 RPM at the moment. Half-inch bowl gouge. Actually don't have a tool rest big enough to encompass the whole of this bowl. We're slowly getting down to some kind of shape now. I had the idea that I wanted to make this bowl look like it was floating when it was on the on a table or something. So I've decided to do a sort of overhanging rim on the outside, just to cast a shadow, and to give your finger something to grip onto when you're moving it around. This is by far the biggest thing I've ever put on this lathe, by the way. It says in the manual for this lathe that it turns up to 16 inches. Well, we've gone well beyond that today. I think it will fit a 22-inch blank on the back, but I think I might be pushing my chuck to the absolute limits, especially with the jaws I've got in it at the moment. So what I've done there is I've put a temporary mortise in the back, and I've actually flipped the piece round just to take a bit of weight off again, because at the minute we're still turning at 425 RPM. So I'm just trying to get a bit more balance into the piece. Okay, so we're back working on the back, and you can hear that I've turned it up to 800 RPM now. I did a bit of maths earlier and I worked out the outside of that bowl is doing about 50 miles an hour, which is about as fast as I'd ever want it to go, I think. I was getting a bit of chatter on this piece. Obviously I've never turned anything this big, so I didn't know how the lathe would react. And it's sort of skipping and jumping around a bit. I think it's just the flex in the piece that's giving me chatter. I've also got to redesign that tool rest. You might be able to see I can't get it as close to the piece as I'd like. I'm probably at least an inch away at points. I'd like to be a quarter of an inch away. So I'm getting rid of the temporary mortise, and I'm going to be defining the foot in a moment. I'm using my very broken skew as a scraper, just to smooth out some of the curves. So here we are defining the foot. I think I heard somewhere that your foot needs to be around about a third of the width of the total width of your bowl in order for it to be stable. I think we're somewhere in that region. Maybe a bit less, maybe a quarter. So that's mortise number 3 gone into this bowl. So on to the mammoth task of sanding the bowl up to, what did I get to? 1,000 grit maybe, something like that. I won't make you watch all of that, don't worry. That's the Yorkshire grit and the shine juice just going on there. Now I had to go out at this point, so when I came back I looked at that mortise and I thought that is a bit ambitious. So I recut it just a little bit deeper, probably a quarter of an inch. And there it is, flipped round. It's time to start hollowing. I say hollowing, it's more of a platter this one, so there's not a great deal of hollowing, but more flattening. Again, I wish I could get a bit closer to the piece while doing this. A bit sketchy chisel work going on. can hear the harmonics starting to come out in the piece. I think that's because of my overhang and also the flex in the piece. It's giving me a load of chatter, leaving nice spirals in the piece that I had to sand out later. Now, bearing in mind this is sped up as fast as it will go, you can see how slow some of those cuts were. I couldn't get it to go any faster. I wasn't entirely sure why that was. I think maybe it was the bounce of the chisel and the harmonic in the wood. Not entirely sure what to do about that. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments. We have a supermoon tonight in the UK, which is where the moon is at its biggest in the sky. So I thought it'd be apt to call this one the moon platter, as it's the biggest thing I've ever done. So I'm just putting a little downturn on the outside of the rim. There's also a couple of cracks in the outside that I've super glued up. And we're on to the sanding. Starting at 60 grit on that because as I say, the chatter was quite bad, so yeah, started at 60 grit and went all the way up to 1000 grit. And some Yorkshire grit going on now. And then the shine juice. So I want to thank everybody for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm pretty pleased with this piece. It was really just a test of whether or not I can turn something this big, and I think it was come out alright. I was almost tempted to put some Lichtenberg on this piece, but when I saw the grain on it I thought, nope, I'm just going to let the grain be the grain. And you can see why. It's for a piece of sycamore, it's got some amazing patterning in it. Right, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.